Welcome back to the United Pubcast, the official Man United supporters club here in Sydney. And sorry for anyone in the live chat waiting for 1 or 2 minutes. Larry and I were just putting our heads together to sort of work out the maths and sort of the time differences when our clocks change and what time Manchester United will be facing Manchester City on Sunday night / Monday morning our time. We're not sure if it'll be Sunday night or Monday morning, but I know George is all over. He's in the comments. Good evening, mate. Let us know what time kickoff is. Not now, after the clocks change. Is it a 1 a.m. kickoff or 11 p.m. on a Sunday night? Do let us know. And Rob, good to see you in the live chat as always. But it is that time of year, Larry, where the clocks are changing and it's going to be tough.
It will be midnight. It will be midnight because it was 1 a.m. It was 1 a.m.
I had it as midnight in my original fixture list.
No, I had a 1 a.m. in mine. I'm certain it's at midnight.
Who knows? Well, we'll see. Maybe just stay up. It's public holiday on the Monday, so there's no point in setting the alarm. We can just sort of stay up and watch the drama unfold. That is on Sunday night, Monday morning here in Sydney. And Sally, good to see you as well, mate. Hope all is well. Larry, as I said, it's that time of year where it does get a little bit tough in regards to supporting United. Not in regards to watching. We obviously love the support, and obviously the team is playing quite well at the moment. So that makes it quite sort of enjoyable supporting. But in regards to that, when we come into October, November, December, the clocks do change for us, and we do get those rough kickoff times, which have obviously been quite sort of stressful and sort of depressing over the last couple of years. You look back at the Louis van Gaal era, the Jose Mourinho era, it was tough. But Erik ten Hag has given us sort of a new lease on life in regards to what we do see on the football pitch. So, look, it's been a while since United have played. It was we beat Sheriff. It was kind of a disappointing display after the sort of Arsenal performance. But there is a feel-good factor going into this Manchester derby. We'll preview it a little bit later and we'll discuss the ramifications of the match itself in a little bit. But with no football, the international break does take its toll. But there is a buzz going into this match against Manchester City. And a couple of weeks ago, we were dreading this. We'll go on, please don't let October be a thing. We just want to skip that month entirely. But now we're sort of walking out with our chest puffed out, ready for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And chest puffed out because United are playing good football. And dare I say it, we are the form team in the Premier League as it currently stands. And that's fact. No side is going into no side has presented better form than Manchester United so far this season in terms of the winning form guide. So I think United have every right to be confident. Like you said, we will give a full tactical preview later in the week. But in terms of United's feel-good factor, are we right to feel confident? Are we right to say we can challenge Manchester City? I think we are.
Well, we'll discuss the sort of rivals in a little bit, and obviously Manchester City are probably number one on that list in regards to if we're potentially looking at a title challenge, which is sort of the basis of this episode. We're discussing what to sort of title tonight's episode and what to discuss. We obviously, the trending topic at the moment is Harry Maguire. How much more can we say on that situation? I don't think there's anything more to say. We might touch it on the end. At the end of the show, but we don't want to dedicate a whole podcast to that. So I was thinking, okay, keep the positivity after the McTominay and Delo discussion we had the other day. All of us sit here and say, no, we don't want to mention the title challenge. There's no chance we can win a title. We're not going to be in a title challenge. If you put money on it, a lot of us will still probably have us finishing out of the top four. And I think that is where the smart money is. However, no one wants to admit it publicly, but I get the sense, and I know other people are getting the sense as well, but no one wants to sort of admit it, whether that be on Twitter or sort of in person when they're having discussions with mates. No one wants to admit it, but everyone is thinking if we go and beat Manchester City or even get a good performance in a draw away at the Etihad, everyone's thinking, well, hang on, why can't we go and have a title challenge? And I'm just thinking, tell me if I'm deluded in that thinking, but I have a feeling everyone is in the same boat of mind as me, where I'm just thinking, yeah, you do get a result at the Etihad, which face the facts, no matter how poor we've been in recent seasons, that's something these players can do. Maybe just the stylistically thing and the way Pep Guardiola complicates things against Man United at times. There is that feeling you do get a win here. Title 21. Now, we're not saying title 21, but you know what I mean.
Look, let me just go straight to it in terms of the subject title of this video, title challenge. Why Man United are or aren't title challengers. I'm going to say I always like to err on the side of caution. I will, however, say that I think we are in a title challenge. And the reason for that is Liverpool, to me, don't look to be the same side. I think Darwin Núñez has, I'm not going to blame him solely, but I think his signing, his impact so far or lack thereof, I think they're really missing Sadio Mane on that left-hand side. I think he's a completely different player, and that one signing has almost changed the way Liverpool play. They also have been without Thiago and Fabinho for different reasons so far this season. And I think that that's impacted the way Liverpool are in terms of playing to their potential. And the final point I will make on the team from Merseyside is Virgil van Dijk just doesn't seem to be playing at his best. He's rightfully been the best centre back in the world. I think is a fair comment to say and a fair title to give him. Over the last 3 years or so, he looks well below his best so far this season. All that being considered, I think Liverpool will come back, but United at the moment have the momentum. So if we can get a positive result against Manchester City and we have a little bit of luck go our way, I think there's an argument to say we can finish above Liverpool. Now, then the conversation becomes, can United sustain it over a season, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Well, we're going to discuss the rivals a little bit later, but seeing you bring up Liverpool there, we might as well sort of skip onto that subject at the moment and discuss Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, City in a little bit more depth as well. So if you are in the live chat, do get your thoughts in regards to the rivals. But there's one point I do want to bring up in a point you made. But Michael here saying Man United will win 3-0 against Manchester City. What I would give for that to win 3-0 away at the Etihad would be sort of fantastic. But you mentioned Liverpool there and sort of, look, I don't want to compare them to the Glazers situation. Obviously, it's very different because they're winning and winning sort of papers over a lot of cracks. But if you do sort of not follow Liverpool closely, but if you are aware of the goings on there, they're very much in the same vein of the Glazers. It just happened we had Sir Alex Ferguson who has made us successful. They've unfortunately got Jurgen Klopp at the moment who's worked miracles over there in the last couple of seasons and sort of papered over a few cracks. Now, one or two things. Sadio Mane has left. Have they replaced him adequately? Probably not. And maybe one or two cracks are starting to appear. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp is potentially coming towards, now I know he signed a new deal recently, but potentially towards the end of his reign at Liverpool. We heard Eric Ten Hag's first press conference when he came in as Man United manager say every era has to come to an end or something along those lines, obviously alluding to potential Liverpool having their time in the sun. You mentioned Virgil van Dijk in regards to Liverpool. Now, what we know we've supported Manchester United for too long now, and we know winning titles is one. You need the collective, you need the manager, you need the whole squad sort of working well together, but it also has a huge part of winning a title is having brilliant individuals. No more Robin van Persie. I know you wouldn't say single-handedly won his title because Michael Carrick was brilliant that season. The defence was solid. We discussed players like Johnny Evans as well. But you'd say Robin van Persie single-handedly won us the league. Eric Cantona won us these leagues. Ronaldo back in 07-08, he won us the league. So those are those things. And when I do look at the Liverpool team, is it lazy of me or sort of a little bit naive to just look at Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk and say they were the best in the world in their positions at the time? Those were the two. And look, at the end of the day, they only won one league. Now, there obviously was a Champions League in there as well. But let's look at that sort of period of Liverpool as great success for them, especially by their standards. Is it off the back of just those two individuals being brilliant? And as you say, Virgil van Dijk was the best in the world. Mohamed Salah, now I don't rate him highly, but you look at the numbers, yes, okay, you can argue best in the world. Or was it a collective thing with Jurgen Klopp and Jordan Henderson was important and Roberto Firmino? Because I do look at it, and if you do have the best player in the world at either end of the pitch, in a Van Dijk and a Salah, when they come to an end, or if they're not at their best, you're going to see a very different Liverpool.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one when you assess Liverpool. I think it's a little bit of both, Tom. Ultimately, Van Dijk and Mo Salah have been, if not the best, one of the best in their positions. You can't deny that. Like you say, particularly with Mo Salah's goal output itself, you don't hit 100 goals for a club unless you have something about you. So credit where it's due there. I think, though, that they have benefited from the system. If we just look at how Liverpool play, not so much now, and I think this has contributed to their decline, but they are trying to change the way they play. So if you look at when they won the league, when you think of Liverpool, so the way we talk about United, what does a prime Manchester United look like? I picture a midfielder giving the ball to Giggs and Giggs running down the left-hand side and beating a player, or David Beckham whipping in a cross. In my brain, when someone says to me, what's vintage Manchester United? That's what comes to my mind. But when I think of Liverpool, I think of Virgil van Dijk pinging the ball into the channels, gets to Robertson or Arnold, and then those fullbacks are just crossing the ball into the box. They almost bypass the midfield, and I think that's what the signing of Thiago particularly has looked to address. I think Klopp has identified this has given us a relative level of success. We've won the league title, but ultimately midfields are the difference between winning and losing matches. You can't get away with winning more games than losing if you don't have a good midfield. So I think that's contributed to why they've probably come back to the playing field a little bit. It's they don't particularly have an elite level of caliber midfielder when Thiago's not there. Just look as recent as the game at Old Trafford. We had James Milner playing in midfield. Yeah. It's atrocious. So
look, I don't argue. You're completely right in regards to midfield, and a lot of Liverpool fans do sort of highlight midfield as potential, as a real potential problem in their sort of makeup of their squad. But I would sort of, you mentioned the style of play and a potential style of change of style compared to what sort of made them successful. And I would compare them to Manchester City and just get your thoughts and people in the live chat. What has been the difference? Is this just me thinking Pep Guardiola is a better manager than Jurgen Klopp? But there's no hiding from the, obviously different quality, but there's no hiding from the similarity of signing in regards to a squad. Darwin Núñez coming in as centre forward and Erling Haaland coming in as centre forward. Big, bulky, left-footed number 9s. Now, that obviously changed the way both teams played. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp, their prime football came with Roberto Firmino in a false 9. So suddenly you have a big left-footed target man who can't play football. I say that respectfully. He's not a footballer like Firmino. He's an old-fashioned striker. Suddenly that changes the way Liverpool are going to do things. And at the moment, thank God, it looks like it's not working. However, we had those sort of issues and concerns raised towards Manchester City, thinking they play such brilliant football. Suddenly you throw Erling Haaland in there. That doesn't make much sense in regards to the way Pep Guardiola plays football because, look, Haaland's brilliant. He's world-class. He's probably going to be the best in the world. As a footballer, he's not brilliant. He doesn't have a great touch sort of thing. So that sort of raised a little bit of a concern there, thinking, how's that going to work? However, if you do look how Pep Guardiola and Manchester City have adjusted, I wouldn't say they sort of they pump the ball and they're very direct like Liverpool sort of have been in the past. But Manchester City have adapted, whether that's Erling Haaland's far better than I give credit for, or Pep Guardiola has changed things to suit Erling Haaland. I'm not sure, but two big money signings, Erling Haaland was obviously cheap by his standards, but two big strikers coming in and changing the way a team plays. Liverpool, it's been to their detriment. City, unfortunately, at the moment, looks like it's been hugely beneficial.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I think with Núñez, his output hasn't equaled that of Haaland.
I've watched him a few times. He's no good. He's not a good player.
Nowhere near Haaland. That's the thing. I think, and mind you and I have discussed this. I don't think Haaland is the best, most technical footballer about, but he's got something about him. I look at Núñez.
I think he's better than I give him credit for. Like, now, obviously, goals trump everything. Okay, they obviously trump everything. But I look at him. I see maybe a couple of highlights where the touch bounces off him, and you think, yeah, he's no good. Maybe he is, and I'm sure he is because he plays for Manchester City, scoring a lot of goals. But he's probably a little bit better than I give him credit for. Where I think with Darwin Núñez, when I saw those YouTube compilations where you try to convince, when he was linked to Man United, everyone watches the YouTube compilations and you try and convince yourself, yeah, he'll be a good signing when he comes in. But even in his highlights, when you were watching him for Benfica, even the goals that were going in, you're going, oh my God, he's not a great player, this guy. Yeah, he's bumping in some goals. But they're obviously Manchester City and Liverpool have sort of gone about this, addressing the striker issue far differently and far more to different results.
You know how we used to almost laud or criticize Romelu Lukaku for not being a good footballer and being a flat track bully? I think Núñez is a worse or lesser of a footballer than Lukaku, and that's saying something.
It's funny when you mention all those three, because all three can be brilliant. All three can be, I wouldn't say Haaland can be woeful at the moment. We haven't seen that. But you look at them, big, burly strikers, left-footed, fast and getting behind. Similarity. I think the next big strike, I'm not sure if he's left-footed, but I did see a Van Basten-like goal from that Šeško kid for Slovenia for international duty. And
Núñez left-footed?
He tries to be. Yeah, he's left-footed.
Oh.
He doesn't do it well, but he's left-footed. Steve Austin here, good to see you, mate. Haaland reminds me of Zlatan when he started hitting his straps big and lethal. Look, unfortunately, Manchester United, if they listen to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, they could have got that deal done a couple of years ago, the club. And look, we argued at the time maybe it was the right decision not to do it because Haaland might have left in a couple of years to go to Real Madrid for 70 million. But obviously that ship has sailed. His future is not going to be at Manchester United. Unfortunately, it does look like he's going to have
Let me question you on that for a little bit. Just imagine it though. I just want you to picture that scenario, right? We signed Pogba for 90 million and let him go for free. I know it's a little bit different, but if you sign Haaland at that time for 30 odd million, and then he goes to Real Madrid 3 years later, you can't tell me that would leave egg on United's face. In saying that,
I think it was the right thing not to sign him at the time. But you still look at, well, if we had him, maybe if he scored a couple of goals, could you re-sign him on a new contract? Who knows? I don't think that would have been the case.
It's a difficult gamble, though, because United are under such a microscope that is not seen at any other football club. Maybe Real Madrid in Spain is and Barcelona, of course. But every decision Manchester United make is placed under such scrutiny, under the microscope. And I just think, I guarantee you, if Ed Woodward was in charge now and he left for 70 million, can you imagine social media? Oh, see what Ed Woodward did. Oh, we shouldn't have let him, signed him for a release clause. That's exactly what would have happened. So the club was very right at the time to make that decision. And I maintain that.
Unfortunately, look, it sounds bad, but you're completely right. I do agree. Chris, good to see you, mate. Haven't seen the chat for a while, but hope all is well. And Martinez will pocket Haaland. Well, the last time they did play each other, that was the case. It will be interesting. I'm sure there'll be articles during the week about the height difference and how Erling Haaland will bully him. But just before we move on to some other rivals and some other clubs in this potential title race, just on that Manchester City match on the weekend, we'll obviously preview it on Friday night. But in regards to the first thing, that Erling Haaland, Lisandro Martinez battle, because it will be, the first thing I need to see, and it'll set the tempo, whether it be a positive way or a negative way, the first thing Lisandro Martinez is do what he did to Mohamed Salah. Now, to a more extreme point, I think Mohamed Salah, you could blow on him and he'll fall over. Haaland, you're going to need to actually properly go through him and maybe pick up a yellow card or two. Or hopefully not two, but you know what I mean. But I just think the first thing Lisandro Martinez or Rafael Varane or fingers crossed Scott McTominay, the first thing we need to do, and it would work better if it was at Old Trafford, obviously a little bit sort of dicey ground to weight the Eddie had in terms of the way the crowd will react. But the first thing that needs to happen in this Manchester derby is go through Haaland, because he's had it easy this year so far. He just walked through teams. He hasn't had a challenge. And the challenge, okay, you can have a good defence or a good tactical battle. He hasn't had a battle physically. Now, it's up to Man United to provide that test for him, and I need to see him on the ground in the first 30 seconds.
Can I make a prediction? And I hope I'm wrong, but it's just this is what my gut feel is. I feel like I can picture United go 1-0 up, and I can picture Lisandro Martinez doing something to get a red card. Players like Lisandro Martinez are going to give you 9 out of 10s, but there's going to be that one moment against good opposition where they get sent off. I'm just scared. Could this be the game where it happens?
Players like that, in terms of, I think we always say with Eric Bailly, I think he potentially got one red card, or there was, what was the stat? One Matter ended up with more red cards than Marcus Rojo, which is just baffling. But some players like that, you just do need to account for potentially pencil in 2 red cards a season. If you want the brilliance that they do bring, the punishment for that and the price you're going to pay is a red card or 2. But Rob, here in regards to that Šeško goal, or the Sesko play, it was a fantastic goal. If anyone remembers the Marco van Basten goal, very similar to that. Chris here, sorry lads, haven't been around. Times haven't worked out with the little Man United players at home. Hope all is well, mate. No issues there. Steve Austin counter-attack lineup versus the Oil Manchester City. We'll discuss the preview in regards to the tactical approach a little bit later in the week, maybe on Friday night. Emad here, good to see you, mate. Everyone in the back four has one crack at him. Let McTominay finish him off Mortal Kombat style. And Sully here, the butcher will have him in the back pocket. And just on that point, look, I used to play with Sully, but Emad here, just in regards to have a crack at him, it is a thing. If there is a key player, it's a thing we used to discuss with Sully in the change room. It was always one player would always have one. If someone kicked him, okay, that next player isn't the next player to make sure you put a challenge on. You do have to share it around, because if just Martinez going in there kicking him every time, eventually it'll be multiple fouls and you're going to get booked. So it is a thing where Varane has to get on him. The next one, Lisandro Martinez, then McTominay. I think, obviously, they do have threats all around the field. You stop Haaland, well, you need to stop De Bruyne. Or you stop him, you need to stop Bernardo Silva. They do have all these threats, which is why, unfortunately, they are brilliant. But Man United, I don't think we're going to beat Manchester City in a football match. They're the best football team in the world, in my opinion. They're obviously the best in the country. We're not going to beat them at football. You have to rough them up. You have to change the style of play. You look at when our great battles against Arsenal. Arsenal were a better football team than Man United. Every year they were. Man United had a little bit more about them, which sort of provided that success, and we could beat Arsenal at times, especially at Old Trafford, because you used to kick them off the pitch. You look at that 49 game undefeated where Ruud van Nistelrooy got the penalty and Rooney late goal. We just battered them. Arsenal were a far better footballing team, But Man United did rough them up, and that is unfortunate. Well, not unfortunate. That is what's going to take to get Manchester City off their game. But just one or two more comments here before we look at potentially other teams in this as well. Casemiro, probably the master of it in terms of, and that throws another debate. Does he start over Scott McTominay? I don't think so. But in regards to what the game might need, you might need that old head of, I say experienced head of Casemiro. And Rob here saying most of the players had a good international break or in solid form. Yeah, very good to see. And obviously, main thing, fitness. Actually, the only player who looks like potentially be injured is Harry Maguire, which we'll discuss at the end. But two other teams. We'll obviously discuss Liverpool and City in regards to they've obviously been the benchmark, unfortunately, over the last couple of years. But if you do look at this season, Arsenal are top of the table. And Arsenal have been the informed team this season. You have to give them credit for it. Obviously, Chelsea at the start of the season was my prediction to potentially be one of the big teams to have a poor season. Now, they could turn this round under Graham Potter. They might end up being very successful. My hunch is it'll continue. I think the makeup of their squad is not fantastic. So just on Arsenal and Chelsea, the two London clubs, you can maybe throw Tottenham here in as well, because Tottenham have been, while not brilliant, I think they've actually been quite poor at times. They're plodding along, scoring goals and winning games, which ultimately sums up Antonio Conte quite nicely. So just in regards to those London clubs, Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham, just what are you thinking so far in terms of being impressed or not impressed? And then obviously the future, is anyone going to sustain it or turn it around?
Yeah, out of those three, look, I think Arsenal will fall. I really do. And that's not me being spiteful. I genuinely think that their strongest 11 isn't a bad side. I think that if you look at United's strongest 11 on paper, it's actually better than Arsenal's. But Arsenal are benefiting from having a manager who's been there for a long period of time. I think that's what you're seeing with the North London club.
Is that ultimately, though, you talk about longevity and that stability. Is that stability more important than what it looks like on paper? Or could that potentially sort of,
course,
be more important?
But I think that the thing with Arsenal is, I look at their squad depth outside of their 11, which I don't think is very strong anyway. And you just can't see how they manage to keep it all together. I think for them to challenge on all fronts, being Europa League, FA Cup will start soon, EFL Cup. We haven't had any EFL Cup matches yet. It's going to get really hectic for them. And I just think once they start battling on all fronts, because the expectation on Arteta has also changed. There is an expectation for him to deliver a trophy as well. So he'll go hard for every trophy now. And I look at their depth, it's non-existent. So I don't think they've bought well in the transfer window either. I think Gabriel Jesus has been a good signing. Zinchenko makes me scratch my head. I think he was culpable for United's first goal against Arsenal. And I think Tierney is a better left back. So I can't make sense of that signing. You could argue it's for depth, sure, but it's just not what they needed. I think in midfield, again, really struggling. I think once they get into the thick of the season, I think Arsenal will fall off because they simply don't have the depth to battle on all fronts. Chelsea have spent a lot of money. I don't think somehow their squad looks worse to me.
Well, just on Chelsea in regards to this, there was a lot of look at Brighton as no one's sort of second team, but obviously Brighton play a lot of good football, so a lot of people had no sort of hatred towards Brighton unless they were sort of playing us off the park, which they did every 6 weeks, it seemed. But in regards to Brighton, Graham Potter got a lot of applauded, and rightly so, did a fantastic job there, got his big move to Chelsea. Everyone's saying, oh yeah, that's the right thing to do. Okay, that's a good thing for both his career and that's the right thing for Chelsea. I just sort of sat back and look, he could prove me wrong. He might go on to win the treble this season. Who knows what Graham Potter will achieve at Chelsea? I just have a feeling, and now maybe this is sort of my sort of pre-thinking ahead of the season, that I thought Chelsea were going to have a bad season, and I have that cemented in my mind, so I can't sort of shy away from that. But I have to stand by it at the moment. I don't see it as I don't want to say it's a bad appointment of Graham Potter. I just don't see it working. Now, just your thoughts on the Graham Potter appointment and sort of how that impacts Chelsea. But maybe you think it's a good signing. I just have and I don't know what the correct signing would have been for Chelsea. Whether, in my opinion, I probably would have kept Tuchel. But in regards to, is it going to sort of provide them any long-term success, or is he going to get the most out of the players? Because his job at Brighton, we're discussing this with Eric Ten Hag the other day in regards to the difference between coaching and managing. You could definitely tell an imprint of what Graham Potter did at Brighton. Every player came in and obviously coached a very well start. When you go to Chelsea, it's not about coaching. You're not coaching them anything. It's about managing that group, and that's a completely different job. Now, he might be a brilliant man manager. He might prove to be fantastic. At the moment, I just have huge and hopefully the right reservations over him at the moment.
And that's another factor with Chelsea. He needs to overcome the challenge of he's never coached mega stars, big players. It's his first gig, and I think it's going to be an up and down season for Chelsea. And the second Todd Bowley made the decision to sack Tuchel, he almost had to accept that if this guy now finishes fifth this season, you're going to sack him. I don't think he will. I think with Chelsea, it's gonna be an up and down season. I think there'll be some games where they absolutely blow sides off the park. And I think there's going to be some games where they're going to lack that bit of consistency because ultimately he plays a different style of football. I don't think with Brighton, I don't recall him playing with a back three. So it'll be interesting to see what he chooses to do. Well, no, he has played in a back three, but I think he'll look to adapt. I think he'll look to play with two centre backs. He's got an aging defence, it has to be said as well. I think he's really going to struggle to overcome that. I think the one that will threaten near the top is Tottenham. They've had a really good transfer window. They've had two good transfer windows now, actually. And in terms of if you want to go back as far as January, Conte seems to be getting a tune out of everyone. Harry Kane's back to his best. I could see Tottenham doing bits this season. I still don't. Are they a better side than United? Let me ask you that question.
Do you think my question, which I thought you were going to ask in regards to that, is okay? At the end of the day, results are everything. Goals trump everything. Points on the board is the most important thing. It doesn't matter how you play. But if you do watch them play, they're not good. Now, ultimately, it doesn't matter because they're winning games. But will that ultimately? We've had this under Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho. When we get results, we're sitting there going, "Oh, hang on." Ultimately, it's good. We'll take it. It's a sign of a good team when you play bad and sort of win games. But ultimately, you think, well, no, you need to provide good football. The better football ultimately will pay dividends in the long run. And I'm seeing Tottenham, I'm thinking, okay, there is something there in regards to Antonio Conte instilling some type of belief and winning mentality. But the football there, I don't see it.
Well, their last result was a 6-2 victory against Leicester.
But they should have been 6 down.
Well, yeah, I guess you could make that argument. It was that kind of game, but nonetheless, they got the result there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like Tottenham. I think the way they're playing, it's going like this. And that's how you want to go. You don't want to start the season on fire like Arsenal have. You want to start how United are, how Tottenham have been. You want to see glimpses without being perfect and still managing to get results. And that's what they're doing at the moment. George says here, Spurs will finish second to City. I think that's a shout. But
George has been consistent with that view for a while. And look, Tottenham, as you mentioned, that trajectory, you can only give them credit. I'm not going to criticise Tottenham and Conte in regards to that. Obviously, they're doing quite well. But
back to my question, Tom. Back to my question. If you look at Tottenham's strongest 11, is it better than Manchester United's?
Could you bring up their 11 for me? I'm trying to go through it. No, I think.
I will.
No, it's a hard one. I think it's skewed with Tottenham because of Harry Kane. It's good if you have the best. Now you could argue Erling Haaland at the moment is the best striker in the league or best striker in the world. There is a case, and I think a valid argument whenever you throw that discussion up to say Harry Kane. I think he's in that discussion because he breaks all the goal scoring records. He's going to end up being the Premier League's highest ever goal scorer. So when you see Harry Kane there, it doesn't matter what you have at the back in regards to their defence. Ultimately, Harry Kane is going to bail you out. And Son, at the moment, he has the ability now. He had his poor start of the season, but obviously he rectified it with a hat-trick. So I look at the danger in regards to what Harry Kane and Son have, and you have to argue potentially.
Right, I'm going to read out, sorry to cut you off, Tom, but I'm going to read out Tottenham's last starting lineup against Leicester. So Lloris at goalkeeper, Sanchez, Dyer, and Lenglet at the back with a three-man defense. Perisic, Holberg, Betancourt, I think I'm going to butcher that, Sessegnon. Then in the attacking third, you've got Kulusevski, Richarlison, Kane.
I think there is a case you could argue. I think probably very evenly matched. On a particular day, you could be right in saying Tottenham are stronger. On a particular day, if Marcus Rashford's fine and Jadon Sancho's sort of on his game, you could argue Man United are stronger. I think it is interesting. It'll be interesting when Casemiro sort of wets his feet and gets involved and sort of what sort of stability he provides Man United's midfield. If you look at Casemiro, Eriksen and Bruno, if they're all on it and playing well and the chemistry is good, I think that's a clear answer. Man United will be a bit stronger. At the moment, we probably haven't seen that. So, look, Tottenham, credit to them. I agree, though, and this is wrong, but I do agree with Steve here. Relax, boys, it's Tottenham. There is just a thing now. I know football guides and everything doesn't sort of really work, but they are just Tottenham. I can just see them fall. Something will happen. And my next point before we do wrap up the show, Larry, is the World Cup. And I think that World Cup, look, it might hamper United, might benefit United, who knows? But Tottenham will obviously be a big player in that argument. But Ashby, good to see you, mate, here. I think we'll be the usual suspects in the title. Think we can still finish top 4. There's another one. Jamie, good to see you over from Northern On. What have I missed? About half an hour of the show, but not bad, mate.
Why are we all talking down United? Like even Ashby there, the comments here, everyone seems to think United finishing outside the top 4 is where the safe money is at.
How long ago did the season start? 6 weeks ago? 7 weeks ago? 6 weeks ago, before the game, when you were at Old Trafford, before the kickoff, when we were in Melbourne, you didn't have us in the top 4.
No, I didn't. But my expectations.
Mine have changed as well. But I'm saying, are they right to have changed now because it's a very small sample size?
Absolutely, they are.
What's been better though? What's been bigger though? Seeing the good performances and the results, or but what's the more impactful? The good performances against Arsenal and Liverpool, or the shocking performances against Brighton and Brentford? Because they should have us confirming the feeling of finishing 6th.
I actually am going to go the other way. I think the positive results, and the reason I'll say that, there's a few factors here, and this is why I think I'm going to say it is a title challenge for United. Maybe not in the sense of will we get close to City, but maybe because I think United do lack depth. I think particularly in the attacking third, we have numbers, but we don't have quality. The drop off from Sancho, Rashford, Martial is, Ronaldo's out of form at the moment. Even watching him for Portugal, he finally looks his age, Tom. He might be human after all. Ronaldo doesn't look good so far. So, he scored 24 goals last season, but nothing this season has shown me that we've got that player. So as it currently stands, we've got an out-of-form Cristiano Ronaldo. Anthony Elanga, with all due respect, I don't think will be a United player in 2 seasons' time. Garnacho has talent, but is young. Anthony is still settling in. So outside of that, you got Sancho, Rashford, Martial, who are probably your first names on the team sheet, I'd say, at the moment, with Ronaldo in there too. And Anthony, of course. I just think the fall-off in that attacking third and the fall-off in midfield, the midfield is what really scares me. You've got Eriksen. If Eriksen gets injured, we don't have anyone who's capable of replacing what he brings to the side. And I think that's the biggest fear for me. He's the only player capable of getting the ball off the back 4, going box to box, being an attacking threat, putting in all kinds of balls from deep. He's the only player on the side that can do it. I think Bruno can do it, but then you'd be using Bruno deeper instead of where he's most dangerous, which is in the final third. So
I don't disagree with you, but you started that sentence or started that little bit. And again, I agree with your points, but you started that by saying our expectations have changed and we should look forward to a good season. But then you just made all the points which reaffirm our fears at the start of the season to finish outside the top 4.
Yeah, I take that. And that's the thing. I think in terms of depth, we do have challenges. And that's why I don't think ultimately we won't get a solid title match, a title fight, I should say. But I think based on what we saw against Southampton, for example, the 1-0 victory, United couldn't pray for a victory like that last season. There wasn't a single game where we got that. The way in which we beat Liverpool, the way in which we beat Arsenal, I look at those performances because, to be honest, I'm deleting the first 2 games of the season. They don't exist to me anymore because the 2 defenders who started in that match haven't started together since, and United have shown positive results ever since. So I think there's something in that. We do have the depth at centre back. I think even if whatever you think of Harry Maguire, let's assume Lindelof is third choice. If Lindelof is third choice, I think United are in a good spot. And then, you got Maguire there. I think Ted and Mengi might get an opportunity. Oh, by the way, have we forgotten that Axel Tuanzebe is still at the club?
So I saw some training photos of him the other day. Well, someone was forgetting about the club and you're rattling off those names in that Christian Eriksen position. Steve Austin giving us our weekly reminder that Donny van der Beek is a Man United player.
I'm not a fan,
what? No. I forget you're a fan or are a fan, and I understand your thinking there, but in regards to just what is happening there, has Erik ten Hag just said, okay, he's good in Holland, but okay, he's not suited to English football? Do you think he's potentially I'm not definitely not accusing him of this, but is he not a good trainer? Because Solskjaer and Ralph Rangnick couldn't get him into the team, sort of thing. Erik Ten Hag hasn't got him into the team, even when we've seen poor performances, not this year, but we've seen poor performances in midfield that hasn't resulted in someone being dropped and Donny van de Beek getting a game. And the only answer there is, well, he'd improve himself in training. So that's where I get that feeling towards Donny van de Beek. But it's just I don't know. We had this at the start of the season. He was first into preseason training this season because he didn't have sort of any international duty or anything. And it was one of those ones where, okay, he's like a new signing. And he's simply not. And that's not to criticise him. It's just I didn't see it playing out like this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think with Donny, Ten Hag came out and said his best position is 10. If you recall, during the Melbourne tour, he mentioned himself. He thinks Donny van de Beek's best position is as a number 10. If that's the case, he's got a hell of a job replacing the current captain and probably the first name on the team sheet.
But not even replacing it. That's not his argument. He's not even like coming off the bench or sort of whether he's picked up an injury or something. I'm not sure.
He's not taking Bruno off. That's the thing. I don't see where he gets his game time. I don't think he has the defensive discipline to play deeper. So that argument is redundant. So ultimately, he's a number 10 only. And if he can only play 10, well, he's going to find it harder to displace Bruno Fernandes. So he's not going to get much game time.
No, definitely. Yeah, Robert Green in terms of Axel Tuanzebe. I'd like to see, you'd think he should work under Erik Ten Hag, but yeah, maybe it's just one of those situations where it's best for all parties to move on. Chris and I were having a discussion the other week in regards to those first two games and trying to eradicate them from our memory, Larry. But if the owners backed the manager, we wouldn't have lost those first two games, which again, you look back, when we sort of fast forward to May and look back at the season, it will be interesting that first couple of weeks of the season, what could have happened if pre-season and the transfer dealings sort of eventuate differently, how because ultimately 6 points, what was 6 points mean at the end of the season? And Emad here saying 21st title is coming this season, which I definitely don't disagree. Emad 100% correct there. And if you are in agreement with that, please do leave a like on the video. That would be great. But before we do wrap up, Larry, just in regards to talking how this title chase will potentially unfold, we've always said over the last year, okay, it'll be interesting how the World Cup is sort of going to have an impact on that. Okay, who's going to benefit the most? Who's going to hurt the most? We just say it, and I just say, oh yeah, it'll have an impact. Now that we're getting closer, obviously teams have played their last international game before the World Cup. I'm just thinking, what's your latest feeling towards it in regards to sort of looking at players who are going to be away, looking at the Man United players who are potentially going to be on the plane to Qatar, who's not going to travel to the World Cup. So who's it going to benefit? A player's going to be better after the World Cup who have travelled and played competitive football, or are the players who are going to be more beneficial? The players stayed home at Carrington and just trained. So who's going to be more match fit? Are they going to be too tired when they come back from the World Cup? So just your latest thoughts on, through a Man United lens, what you're thinking ahead of the World Cup.
Yeah, I think we'll be all right, to be honest. I hope Southgate keeps up his highly intelligent way of thinking and doesn't choose Sancho and Rashford on a selfish level. Because if those boys don't go away, I think there's an opportunity. On
a selfish level, what do you want? Like, do you want to see them at the World Cup?
No. For them, of course. Like for
them,
I
look at it from a personal level. Like, I understand a selfish thing from Man United and keeping fit, but I think my personal feeling would sort of trump that and hope they do go to the World Cup.
Yeah, of course. Look, on a personal level, of course, I hope they go. But as a United fan, what's better for United? You know.
Well, that's my question. What is better, playing a month of competitive football or sitting at home at Carrington? Now, I'm sure they're going to organise friendlies at Carrington against other sort of championship clubs, sort of thing, and they'll have their games, but they won't have competitive games. So I'm just thinking, what will be better for a player, the competitive football or not getting injured and just training at Carrington?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Look, I think staying at Carrington ultimately, because you have to remember there's a hell of a long season that's going to succeed the World Cup, and that's what scares me. It's going to be a lot of football really quickly. I don't know how these players are going to do it. It's going to be really hard. Not just that, the emotional high of a World Cup, assuming some of these players go deep into the tournament, it's going to be a big come down, and then you have to go fight on all fronts again when you get back to your club. It's going to be a season like no other. I think we are going to get a hell of a whole bunch of surprises. I think we've put forward Tottenham, Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Manchester City, Liverpool. Who's to say that outside of those six?
Well, Brighton's still above us. Now they've obviously lost their manager, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I think we'll have to do before when the World Cup teams are announced. I'm sure there's a deadline where squads have to be sort of unveiled. It'll be. I think we'll go through it individually and say, okay, how many players from Arsenal have gone? How many players from United have gone? Who do we expect to go further in the tournament, sort of thing? And it'll be very interesting to sort of break it down like that. But in regards to that Man United lens, is there a team? I forget if I asked you or someone else on the podcast the other week, but is there a player that you think you can see lifting a World Cup, like in terms of Lisandro Martinez with Argentina or Rafael Varane's with France? Could you see a Man United player being involved with a team that is potentially one of your favourites to win the
team? Definitely Harry Maguire. Definitely be lifting the World Cup for England. It's really interesting. Who's your favourite for the World Cup, Tom? Still France for me. I look at the side.
I had a premonition the other day that France are they're going to buckle. I can now, maybe being in Australia's group will save them. Maybe they can get 3 points there. I have a feeling I wouldn't. Now, I tipped them. I never tipped the winner of the World Cup to win. I always tip Argentina for some reason. But ahead of 2018, I said, no, France are going to win this one 100%. France ended up winning it. This one, I think they're going to do what they did in 2002, win it in 98 and crash out in the groups in 2002. And I just have a feeling they're going to do that as well. Now, maybe, as I said, Australia being in their group might give them 3 points. But in regards to my favourite, I wouldn't say – it was my next line before I seen that comment here. I wouldn't say they are favourites. But in regards to potentially with a Man United lens, I would love to see Portugal do it. Whether that means Portugal-Argentina final, Ronaldo, Messi, I think that's what all football fans want. But just your thoughts ahead of Portugal, because obviously that's probably Man United will have more Portuguese players than English players at the World Cup potentially.
Yeah, that would be the fairy tale, wouldn't it? If you can manage to somehow get a Portugal-Argentina final, give us Ronaldo and Messi just one last time.
Do you think that is good? Like, yes, we want it. Look, documentaries would be made. It would be one of the most historic sporting moments ever. However, in regards to the debate, who's the better? If one had a World Cup, it doesn't in terms of having a holistic debate in regards to discussing it properly. But in regards to you discussing it over Twitter or at a pub with a mate, it's the end of the debate. If someone said, well, he's won the World Cup against him, the discussion is over. So do you think, while we all do want it, it's probably better not to have it because
Ronaldo has been compared to Messi for far too long, and it's about time he broke clear. But
then Messi scores a winner in the World Cup final? Then it's a non-discussion.
I'll still maintain my opinion, mate.
No, don't leave. There are a few shouts here, Mike. Good to see you, mate. Brazil, well, obviously, you've got a big Brazil contingent as well. As I said, Brazil and Portugal, we might have more players than the England team.
I don't think Brazil. With all due respect, when Fred's your starting midfielder, you got problems.
I saw Anthony came off the bench. I think they had a big win. I think they might have played Tunisia this morning. Hannibal, I saw, came off the bench, but obviously got Casemiro, Anthony, and obviously Fred. Chris having a bit of feelings behind France. As I said, France could go to win it. They obviously have that ability.
On paper, France are still the strongest squad, aren't they?
I still have the feeling that they could just do what France do and just crash out in sort of fascinating style. Be interesting, Paul Pogba, if he's going to be there, or the situation with him and Mbappe, how Mbappe is going to welcome him to the squad if he's fit.
There'll be some witchcraft in the pitch.
I saw Mbappe trip on the ball. That was funny.
I think you're going to see some bats chasing Mbappe around while he's trying to kick a ball.
Steve, here in regards to Portugal's depth, I think, do you look at Portugal and you think they do have it? Obviously, Diogo Dalot's banging in goals from right back as well. And Chris here, Messi is that Argentina team to win the World Cup, and he had failed. Look, obviously, he did have that chance in terms of, it was 2014 against Germany, got to the final. Didn't quite happen for him. But look, those are discussions for later on in the year. Well, it's coming around quick. It's will be a couple of weeks before we know it in regards to that. And obviously the time aren't too bad for us here in Sydney. I think a lot of sort of 9 o'clock kickoffs, midnight kickoffs. So we'll obviously pick and choose the ones we do stay up for. But it is one of those things, Larry, before the World Cup was, what's it doing in December or that time? It's going to be woeful. It's in Qatar. Where fans going to go. It's going to be the worst World Cup ever. Here we are a couple of weeks out. But here we are a couple of weeks out. We can't wait for it.
Oh, yeah, I'm pumped for it. I think it'll be awesome. But let me ask you this, just to bring it back to this title challenge debate. Give me your top four as it stands. What do you think the top four will be at the end of the season?
I think, unfortunately, I'd say this in regards to a City v Liverpool hat. Obviously, fortunately, I'll predict City. I think City are the best team in the country. I think potentially my big fear with City is potentially the Champions League. So I think City are going to win it. I think second, third, and fourth, flip a coin, whoever has the better season. Now, that's obviously stupid, obviously. But in regards to, there's a few shouts earlier in the live chat in regards to Tottenham. If Tottenham can sort of remain that sort of consistent force, you do have to look at potential match winners they do have in Son and Kane. Look, Tottenham have finished second before, so it's not out of the realms of possibility. At the moment, you would, yeah, I'd say probably City, Tottenham. I know Liverpool are bad at the moment. I still think Liverpool sort of get their act together a little bit and sort of not have a successful season, but sort of get back into the winning habit. So I can see Liverpool finishing there, and then flip your coin for fourth. Chelsea, Arsenal, United. I'll say United just for the sake of it. At the moment, in terms of the way you're watching things, you'd have to say potentially Arsenal in regards to the way they're going about things. But as I say, I agree with you, they're potentially going to fade off. So if I was a betting man today, and my bet would obviously change drastically tomorrow, I would say City, Tottenham, Liverpool, and United. And George here is saying City, Spurs, United, and Arsenal. And yeah, look, I can't discredit Arsenal. Obviously, they have been good, and it will be interesting to see if they can keep that consistency and form. Fingers crossed they can't. But a top four for you, Larry.
City, Spurs, United, Liverpool.
On United, look, we'll have a preview for the Manchester Derby on Friday night. We beat Manchester City away at the Etihad. Does it change your view in regards to, are you looking at the table differently? Are you looking more at a statement than actual points on the board? What does it mean for Erik ten Hag if we are to go to Man City and get a result?
Well, then I think confidence is a really funny thing. And for the debate that I have now in terms of do United have the depth to battle on all fronts, I also think that if you can go to City and get a win, it's that feeling of when you have a winning culture, it's amazing what players can suddenly do. And I think there's something in that. I mean, you and I sat here. I know it was the magic of Sir Alex Ferguson, but we managed to win a league where Tom Cleverley played a major chunk of games. Anderson played a major chunk of games. Michael Carrick was the orchestrator and all of that. But like I sit here saying, if Eriksen has an injury, we'll be in a tragic situation. Well, if Carrick got injured in the 12-13 season, we would have been in a tragic situation. If Robin Van Persie got injured, we would have been in a tragic situation. So I think they almost have to take an element of positivity and say, you know what? If all these players can stay fit, what if they stay fit?
Well, I think that the biggest case of that, and obviously a drastic situation, which obviously is not going to happen again, but if you do look at the extreme measure, Leicester City, that's starting 11 played every single week.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, look, they didn't obviously have to battle in terms of in Europe, but it doesn't really matter. I think if United can get through the group stages fairly unscathed, get through the World Cup fairly unscathed, I think there's every possibility. And again, I bring about the most impressive performance I've seen this season has probably been the Southampton match. That's the one that actually worried me the most because that's the game that United lose last season. And the fact they managed to keep a clean sheet and get a goal when they didn't perform well, that's the one where I'm like, okay, this side's capable of that now. So now I'm going to be more confident when we're versing the likes of Crystal Palace or Leeds or whoever it might be.
Definitely. Good to see Scott here. Good mate of ours, Arsenal fan, host of It's a Football Thing. Make sure you go over and subscribe to Scott and Rob on It's a Football Thing. And 21 is coming, boy. So he's on board. Good to see he is speaking some sense as an Arsenal fan. But as an Arsenal fan, just before we do wrap up, Scott, if you're still with us, here both of us have just said Arsenal are not going to finish in the top four, yet they're currently, I've looked at the ladder here, they're currently top of the league, and everyone in the live chat saying they're not going to sort of make the top four, and we agree with them. So as an Arsenal fan, now I expect you're going to have them in the top four, but do get us your thoughts in the live chat just as we're starting to wrap up. But Larry, anything else Man United to add in terms of, is there anything, I don't want to touch on Harry Maguire, but if anyone's still with us, in regards to the Harry Maguire situation, lay off him. It's gone, like, we always distinguish the difference between criticism and abuse. The over-the-top criticism now is borderline abuse, in my opinion. He's been criticised for absolutely nothing. The criticism is way over the top. Now, again, a lot of it is sort of brought on by himself, and he deserves that criticism, but it's gone to a stupid level. Now, ultimately, we're Man United fans, and you need to support the players. Whether we like them, whether we think they're good enough or not, they're going to need our support. If Rafael Varane or Lissandro Martinez get injured, Harry Maguire comes in. How's he going to perform better? With us supporting him or us abusing him? Those are one or two ways things can go. I want to choose the way of supporting him. Now, yes, I think the future might be better off without Harry Maguire for both player and club, but ultimately the treatment of him online at the moment, you say, Larry, it's easy, put your phone down, don't read it. It's there, it's everywhere, it's around you. Like, you can't escape the criticism at the moment or the aura around Harry Maguire. So I think whatever your thoughts are of Harry Maguire at the moment, get off his back and just support him for once.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Did you see that guy's video where he's pointing at his TV? I think he's got his missus in the background, but you know what? He made some really valid points. It has to be said, he did.
If Harry Maguire doesn't go, the guy turns and puts it in the top corner. Everyone is saying it's 2 yards. Harry Maguire's got to go. I know it looks bad for Harry Maguire. It's the only thing he could have done. If he stays off and the guy picks a pass, we're saying why isn't he closing him down?
That's true. That's true. I actually blame his midfielder there.
That's where the problem is. That's where the mistake, not cutting off that pass. Does that suit any agenda or suit the narrative? Of course it doesn't, unfortunately. But Scott here saying not too worried about you lads writing us off. United and Arsenal fans have a great knack of sort of writing each other off and sort of dismissing everyone, and it sort of comes back to bite you 6 months later.
We have no reason to write you on. I mean, when was the last time you finished in the top 4? I probably wasn't able to grow a beard.
It will be interesting. Actually, I was going to say when's the next time I play Arsenal, but we obviously beat them a couple of weeks ago. I remember, actually, I saw the Anthony goal popped up on my timeline the other day, but hope all is well, Scott, and I'm looking forward to the return of It's a Football Thing tomorrow. And Larry, anything else Man United related to sort of touch on before we wrap up?
Be happy. Obviously, we will have the Manchester Derby preview coming to you Friday night, Tom. Do I have that right? Yeah, probably. Friday night, you'll have the Manchester Derby preview, so look out for that. And then Monday, you'll have your public holiday match review. Okay. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't want to miss those shows. Make sure you do get involved. Follow us on social media, UTD Pubcast, on Twitter, Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook as well. Very much in agreement. But Scott here won a trophy more recently than you. He obviously is not aware of this Bangkok Cup that is currently paraded in the Old Trafford Museum. Obviously won that. Maybe he did win a prize. Maybe he won the out. It used to be called the Emirates Cup potentially. But as things stands, we are the Bangkok Cup holders, and long may that continue. Obviously smashing Liverpool in the final 4-0. But until then, hope everyone has a good weekend or a good couple of days, and we'll chat to you on the weekend. Until then, cheers. Cheers.